Thursday, 2nd December 2021 at 2:30 p.m. respectively, in accordance with the Senate calendar. I thank you. The rest can sit, except those who are coming with Senator Mwaura. Okay, Honorable Senators, implication of the High Court judgment in Civil Appeal number E248 of 2021, Honorable Isaac Mwaura versus Jubilee Party and others. Honorable Senators, you will recall that on Tuesday, 11th May 2021, I issued a communication making reference to a special issue of the Gazette Notice 102 dated 10th May 2021, containing Gazette Notice number 4597, which communicated the occurrence of a vacancy in a member of the Senate elected through a party list. The Gazette Notice notified the general public that pursuant to Article 131E1 of the Constitution and Section 37 of the Elections Act, the seat of the member of the Senate elected under Article 98(1)(d) of the Constitution and held by Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura Maigwa became vacant with effect from 7th May 2021. A number of senators raised several points of order, following which on 18th May I gave a detailed communication on the circumstances that led to the declaration of vacancy via Gazette Notice number 4597. Following the said Gazette Notice, the chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, via the Gazette Notice number 4598 dated 11th May 2021, gazetted Mr. Sami Priza Leshore as the member nominated to the Senate to represent persons with disabilities in place of Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura Maigwa. Honorable Senators, you will recall that Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura Maigwa subsequently challenged the decision of the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal in High Court Civil Appeal E248 of 2021. Isaac Mwaura Maigwa versus Jubilee Party and others on 11th May 2021, the High Court issued the following orders. 1, pending the inter-party hearing and determination of the aforesaid motion, the respondents are hereby restrained by an order of injunction from implementing or further acting on the judgment of the Political Parties Tribunal dated 7th May 2021. 2, pending the inter-parties hearing of the motion dated 11th May 2021, an order for stay of further implementation of the Gazette Notice number 4597, volume CXX1 102 dated and issued on the 10th May by the third respondent. 5, following several mentions on the matter on diverse dates in the months of May, June, and July 2021, Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura Maigwa subsequently filed a substantive appeal against the judgment of the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal, and the parties filed their respective responses and submissions of the appeal. On 24th November 2021, the High Court delivered its judgment on the appeal. Honorable Senators, in the judgment, the High Court set aside the decision of the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal expelling Senator Mwaura from the Jubilee Party. Specifically, the High Court quashed the notices by 1, the Register of Political Parties of the removal of the name of Senator Isaac Mwaura Maigwa from the Jubilee Party membership list. 2, the Speaker of the Senate communicating the occurrence of a vacancy in a member of the Senate elected through a party list. And 3, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC, appointing Mr. Samuel Priza Leshore to replace Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura Maigwa as the member of the Senate representing persons with disability. Honorable Senators, as your Speaker, I have often reiterated that the office of the Speaker is ill-equipped and totally devoid of the mandate to delve into or inquire into internal affairs of political parties represented in Parliament. This is a matter that falls within the mandate of the members of the respective parties. Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura Maigwa exercised his constitutional right to appeal against the decision of the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal, and a verdict has been delivered by the High Court. My role in this matter, therefore, is to abide by the decision of the High Court, as the Office of the Speaker has no interest in the direction or inferences that the concerned parties would take on the matter. In this instance, the role of the Office of the Speaker is limited to receipt of the judgment, analyzing its contents, and where it concerns this office, implement its findings. Honorable Senators, the High Court, having quashed Gazette Notice number 4597 by the Speaker of the Senate, which declared a vacancy of a member elected through a party list, thereby removing Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura as a senator. And further, the High Court, having quashed Gazette Notice number 4598 dated 11th May 2021 by the chairperson of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, which appointed Mr. Sami Prisa Leshore to replace Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura as a member of the Senate representing persons with disability, I therefore direct that Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura Maigwa, CBS MP, remains a senator in accordance with the Constitution of Kenya and the Senate standing orders. I thank you. Okay, welcome. As your point of order, Senator Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to, first of all, join you in congratulating Senator Mwaura for his readmission back to the Senate. Mr. Speaker, you have captured, and also want to congratulate you for capturing exactly the position of the law and the Constitution. Congratulate the Office of the Speaker for obeying the interim court orders that restrained the admission of other parties that were nominated to come to these chambers. Mr. Speaker, why I want to really appreciate this is a celebration of the rule of law, and that the Speaker's priority in these chambers is to protect the Constitution and to protect colleagues who are your colleagues in this House, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we may have disagreed on other things in the past, but on this one, you got it very right, Mr. Speaker. You got it extremely right. And if you had not obeyed the initial court order, we would not be here today discussing this particular court order, because it would have been extremely difficult for Senator Mwaura to get back his rights. In his absence, Mr. Speaker, you know Senator Mwaura has lost a lot. He has suffered. I am speaking as a person who was part and parcel of his legal team. Mr. Speaker, Senator Mwaura just didn't suffer the consequences, financial consequences of defending his rights, but Mr. Speaker, psychological and mental torture. Having to go through very difficult situations, abruptly removed from the Senate. He has obligations to his family. He has obligations to his constituents, Mr. Speaker. The persons with disabilities felt very disappointed. But, Mr. Speaker, also his financial obligation and commitments that, Mr. Speaker, was suddenly disrupted. You know, no senator here, and I've said this before, maybe 99% of senators in this House earn less than 20,000 shillings in their accounts because they have committed all their salaries to mortgages. And, Mr. Speaker, to find yourself in a situation where the bank is asking you or that you have to pay back your money from your pocket abruptly at some point, that was very torturous. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, the courts have restored the sanity in the political party. I've read the judgment, Mr. Speaker, briefly, and the judge was very clear, categorical, that it was discriminatory and so admitted by the Secretary General of Jubilee Party that it is true that other political players in these chambers, including myself, have supported other parties, like I support UDA. And, Mr. Speaker, it was captured properly that some members of this House went to campaign of Jubilee, went to campaign for ODM in Kibra, and have been associated and campaign, including the President himself and the Secretary General, the party leader and Secretary General. But out of sheer madness and total discrimination, the party picked the weakest, the ones that they realized that this one is a person with disability, this one can easily be preyed on, Mr. Speaker, this one is easy to get. And, Mr. Speaker, when they did so, they also did with the women-nominated senators, Mr. Speaker, who survived by the order of the political parties dispute tribunal. And we would not have been here. Senator Naomi would not have been here. Senator Omanga, Senator Falhada, Senator, Mr. Speaker, Senator Mary, Senator, and who else? And all these nominated ladies. Senator who? Yes, sorry, and the late Senator Prenge. All these people would never have been senators had it not been, Mr. Speaker, for court orders to safeguard and protect them. And the question we should ask ourselves going forward is, will political parties continue being run like Jubilee? Mr. Speaker, no wonder Jubilee is a shell of its past. They could not even hold a national delegates conference because, Mr. Speaker, all of us are out. Not more than 5 people would fill the delegates conference. They can't even hold a single PG, Mr. Speaker, because they are chasing people the way they've chased Maura. Congratulations, Senator Maura. Welcome to the Senate. Congratulations for staying firm, staying the course. You are a fighter. You fought for rights of persons with disabilities, even up to New York. This small Tuju and Murade could not have been a problem to you. And I believe...
Senator Murkomen, I know you are...
I am concluding, Mr. Speaker.
Congratulating you, but don't get carried away.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know there are some people in this country who feel that, Mr. Speaker, there are others who are less important than others. You know, literally, the party that I used to be a member has become an animal farm. It's culling its members, picking one by one, looking for the weakest one, and then they say, okay, let's take this one to the auction and a slaughterhouse. And Mr. Speaker, the future of political parties, including UDA, which I'm now a member, and I know, Mr. Speaker, there will be a huge migration in another few months. I suspect you will be part of that migration, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Murkomen, order. Senator Murkomen.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I withdraw, Mr. Speaker. But I'm saying there will be a huge migration that will occur in this country in a few months. And perhaps this is the last week we'll be here before people go for complete competition for their political party tickets. And so I believe that as we go to the various parties we will migrate to, and those who will have their parties like Petrolina Were, who have a well-organized run party called ANC, and however small it is, Mr. Speaker, I have not seen them doing a lot of drama. I believe that we'll now learn from the lesson of Senator Maura to respect the rights of its members and to respect the court itself. And I believe that the cost that will be awarded to Senator Maura will be punitive enough to teach political parties to respect their political direction. And I think, and we will discuss later, there's the President's State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, if there is something that this nation must learn from the 5 years of second term of President Uhuru Kenyatta, is that it doesn't pay and it doesn't reward to disobey the law, the Constitution, and court orders. Welcome, Senator Maura. We are very happy for you. The law firm of Singoe, Murkomen, and Sigei advocates who participated in defending all the senators here, all the nominated senators, 6 of them, successfully defended them in political parties dispute tribunal, and successfully defended Senator Maura and brought him back here. And I want to congratulate my colleague, Senator Hilary Sigei and Senator Helen Tuisime, Mr. Speaker. We have a very international lawyer in our law firm who participated and worked so hard to ensure that Senator Maura comes back to these chambers. And the law firm, the SMS advocates, are very proud of you, Senator Maura. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
I'll seek your indulgence because we have a very heavy agenda, so I'll just allow maybe 2 or so people so that we don't embark on. Senator Langat, yes. Then.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity to thank God for bringing back Senator Maura. Senator Maura, you remember very well, when this happened, I came to your office and I assured you, in as much as God is still almighty and omnipotent, all-powerful, you'll come back to the Senate. So it is a high time that we must thank God. God who is above all of us. And I remember telling you that in as much as nobody is God in this world, God will take his position and do his work. I even told you, thank God I'm not God myself, because I know God is so powerful than every other human being, and even including political parties. So I want to thank and to appreciate, secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate the work of judiciary. This actually signals to all of us the importance of independence of judiciary. Imagine if BPI could have gone through and reduced the powers of judiciary. Every one of us could be now being scared of anything that can happen. So I want to thank God, and I want to thank the judiciary for being independent and expressing their minds independently. Otherwise, if they could be following the powers of the political parties, I think Mwaura could not be here. So, thirdly, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate you for taking your position in a neutral manner and doing what is expected of you. I really appreciate you, and I want to say that Senate has taken its shape and its position in decision making. So I want to congratulate you, Mr. Speaker. The last message that I want to say is that to all the nominated members and every member of this particular house, you can now rest assured that you are equal to all of us. None of us is more important than the other. You are a nominated member, and you are equal to every one of us. Rest assured that you will be protected by God and the judiciary in case of anything. Don't be caught to think that you are lesser human beings than all of us. We are all senators, and we should be protected by the law equally. So wherever you want to make your independent decision in this house or elsewhere, do it freely, without fear of intimidation by political parties. Otherwise, I want to also say that I thank the nominated members who have been standing strong no matter the situation with Senator Mwaura, and I want to thank all the senators who stood with Mr. Mwaura in this particular journey. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and we all thank God for his comeback.
Senator Kindiki, Professor on Zoom, then Senator Mwaura will conclude.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker. Can you hear me, Honorable Speaker?
Proceed, Professor.
Can you hear me, Honorable Speaker?
Yes, I can hear you and see you. Proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to take this opportunity to join my colleagues in welcoming back to the Senate Senator Isaac Mwaura, who has gone through an horrendous experience in the last few months in the hands of his tormentors in our once beloved party, Jubilee. Honorable Speaker, I take this opportunity to thank you most profusely and your office for obeying the decision of the court and complying with the court order. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, I want to say I am very proud of the judiciary in this decision. And for the record, Honorable Speaker, I have always insisted that the judiciary has a wide mandate to control the activities of Parliament, including issuing injunctions as happened in this case. But I have been careful, and I want to put it on record, to say that that mandate extends to administrative aspects of parliamentary work, including quashing the Gazette notice that had illegally been published to invite the former Senator Leshare to take up Senator Mwaura's position. So I still maintain that legal logic, Honorable Speaker, that the judiciary has expansive powers to control the activities of Parliament in all administrative matters, but that mandate is restricted and does not include stopping or injuncting Parliament from performing legislative work. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I am very happy and content with the legal logic that the court used to acquit Senator Mwaura, namely the principle of non-discrimination. And it's a shame that we had to punish Senator Mwaura, a representative of persons with disabilities, when we know in Jubilee, for example, the party leader is supporting the opposition. The deputy party leader of Jubilee has formed his own political party. Ranking members, including myself, Honorable Senator Murkomen, Honorable Duale, former majority leader, and others are supporting UDA. It is a shame to punish Senator Mwaura, Honorable Speaker, when the party leader of ODM is supporting Jubilee. and when the party leader is supporting Jubilee, etc., etc. Once again, congratulations, Senator Mwaura. Congratulations, Speaker Kenneth Lusaka, and congratulations, the great judiciary of the Republic of Kenya. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, finally, Senator Mwaura. Oh, Senator Orengo, yes, sorry. Leader of Minority.
I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me join my colleagues in welcoming back Senator Mwaura. And between me and him, we go a long time. And I know you are an effective legislator, and we are proud to see you back in the House. I want to congratulate also the Speaker, because, you know, sometimes people, when they look at court orders, they support the court when the order is in favor of a particular individual. But when it is against you, you accuse the court. So I think sometimes it's a question of double standards. But I can say for our Speaker, I think you have consistently held the position that the court orders are for obedience. And this is, I don't think, is the first instance in which you have demonstrated that you are guided by the law and nothing else. Now, I don't want to go into the politics of this, because I think doing so, we are going to lose the significance of why Senator Mwaura is back in the House. I think it's back in the House, like the late Tomboya said, in a democracy, unless you have strong institutions. And strong institutions include Parliament, it includes the executive, and it includes the judiciary. And those institutions also can be of nuisance value if they don't obey the letter and spirit of the rule of law. And to that extent, therefore, I have been always a strong advocate in obedience of court orders. Whether or not you don't like them, I think the fundamental principle is always to obey court orders. And for lawmakers, it is even more significant because you are the lawmaker. So when the court is applying the law that you have enacted and stated the reasons why they have complied or given an order in pursuance of any particular statute or any legislation, Parliament should be the last to complain. In any case, if you don't like the law, you always have the opportunity to change that law. But until that law is changed, I think our primary responsibility is to obey the law as propounded by the courts. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether Senator Mwaura, what he has missed in terms of his rights, what is truly his, in obedience of that court order, that whatever Parliament owes him, he should be given in entirety in terms of allowances and so on. But finally, I think the country, we are coming to a very important period. And this period that we are entering, unless we obey the law and do everything in accordance with the law, we are going to be in an extremely difficult position. Whether you are supporting this or that party, but I think the underlying principle is that we must always obey the law and respect the independence of our institutions. And I'm always remembering that the weakest people in circumstances when people are not obeying the law are politicians and members of Parliament. If you didn't have some of these laws, some of you would be in detention now. you'll be serving prison terms. And if you didn't know, the leader of majority here, he had to run away very quickly to escape the long arm of the law. But being a very tall man, he was able to run away so far that the law could not reach him. And when circumstances changed, he came back. So these great debates about politics, this party, as parliamentarians and legislators, there must be a common standard, universal principles, that when we see those principles working, and there are principles that make sense, if those principles are applied in Uganda, in Ethiopia, people will celebrate. Yeah, there are some principles that have universal application. And therefore, today, as we celebrate Senator Mwaura coming back to the House, we are saying this is the true human spirit of being, honored and respected and given your inherent dignity, so that as you serve the people of Kenya, you know that you can go back to your house without being harassed. So I would want to say, without any fear of contradiction, let us be each our brother's keeper. Whichever is your party at the end, we got only one country called Kenya. And if we destroy this country called Kenya because of pursuit of political objectives and political interests, we'll go nowhere. We'll go nowhere. There should be a common denominator that when there's a wrong, Senator Pogisio would stand up to defend you. When there's something wrong happening to our speaker, we'll stand up and say, that is not right. And that is the only way we can make Kenya great and leave a lasting legacy to the great people of this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Finally, Senator Mwaura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It gives me great pleasure to come back to this august house, and I thank the Lord Almighty for giving me an opportunity to come back here. In fact, in the book of 1 John chapter 5, verses number 14, it says that if we ask anything according to his will, he will hear us. And further, in the book of Job 14:7, it says clearly that at least there is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, it will sprout again, and its new shoots will not fail. Its roots may grow old in the ground, and its stump die in the soil, yet at the scent of water, it will bud and put forward shoots like a plant. Mr. Speaker, today you are a hero because you have actually been able to obey the rule of law, and you have expressed neutrality in your quest to ensure that everybody has a chance to become whatever they would want to be, and that everybody is protected by the law. That is extremely important, especially if you look at the congruence of the role of God and the rule of law. The great Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Meles Zenawi, said that the rule of law is the basis for any democracy, and without the rule of law in democracy, you have chaos. We cannot build the foundations of a state without the rule of law. Stockwell Day aptly put it that Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. I would want to reiterate that the same by stating that Kenya is founded upon the supremacy of God and the rule of law. My being in the Senate today is unlikely. Unlikely because it has never happened in the history of the Republic that a seat can be declared vacant, a replacement gazetted, yet a reinstatement is occasioned by a court ruling. This is a novelty, indeed a landmark ruling that sets precedents going forward in not only protecting the independence of Parliament, but ensuring that nobody shall be victimized purely based on their political opinion or association. Article 38 of the Constitution gives every citizen the right to freedom of association, and it's therefore inconceivable that these can be criminalized to the extent that one ends up losing their own seat in Parliament. This precedent should therefore serve as a warning that our Constitution will stand tall in ensuring that this democratic right is protected. My political witch hunt was fomented due to my clamor for equal opportunity for all Kenyans. This was born of my long struggle to represent the voiceless and underprivileged Kenyans on this floor and outside the chambers of this august house. This realization is occasioned to me like a eureka moment that no matter how I fought for them to be included in society, their inclusion would only be token as long as equal opportunities for all citizens wasn't realized. This calls upon all of us from our different walks of life to keep eternal vigilance, to rise up and speak when such is infringed, for inequality somewhere is inequality everywhere. Likewise, freedom somewhere is freedom everywhere. When we claim our freedom and equality, those who are used to privilege sees this as oppression. We need to remind them that equality for all guarantees a safer environment for them, as well as one doesn't have to look over their shoulder depending on who wields power. As I said before, my being here today is unlikely. Indeed, a young boy born nearly 40 years ago in Kiambu District Hospital to a single mother who was abandoned on account of having a child who looked different on account of albinism. Yet I had a dream that one day I would become a respectable member of the society. My mother worked as a farmhand in our local MP's shamba, laying me down to sleep under a banana tree as she tilled the land with other women and men. When I was young, I had a dream that I would be a member of parliament. Many found this unachievable, but I stand here today being the first person with albinism to serve both in the National Assembly and the Senate. I thank God for that. To some, this opportunity to participate in decision-making on an equal basis with others means that the typical stereotype of the underprivileged must subsist, that we must remain meek, grateful, apologetic, and reconciled to gratitude occasioned by the very opportunity to serve. I want to remind them that we have fought very hard to have this representation, and that special seats are constitutional, therefore not tokens to appease political patronage. That due to the unfair nature of first-past-the-post elections, political parties are only custodians, but not owners of the process to guarantee representation of equal citizens who would otherwise not make it to be represented. As such, it is of utmost importance that such space be robustly safeguarded in order to ensure active and full participation of the representation of special interest groups in all of our legislatures, in order to ensure to their constituents their human rights and fundamental freedoms through the very representation that is the essence of their presence in parliament. Legal vehicles through which a group of like-minded individuals are able to capture power through legal means in order to exercise it. However, our political parties have had a fair history of not surviving the next general election, degenerating to become a pale shadow of their former selves. This is largely because of lack of internal party democracy that enables them to outgrow the founders' syndrome. The founders see them as personal property rather than public institutions of our nascent democracy. It's therefore important to ensure that we continuously question the manner in which they are run, and that such endeavors be protected by law in order to ensure that we have strong political parties, such as is in other jurisdictions, that have been able to carry the vision of their country, lifting millions of people out of poverty. For example, the Chinese Communist Party, CPC, and the two-party systems of Democrats versus Republicans and Labour versus Conservatives in the US and the UK, respectively. This comes to mind to Kenya, so that it's essentially, we look at our history, that we are a de facto two-party state, only that we kill them and start new ones from the same material every 5 years. Isn't this the theater of the absurd? This recycling not only kills the careers of many good leaders, but it stunts the growth of our country towards sustained prosperity. Our public institutions, such as constitutional commissions and independent offices, needing not to cave in under political pressure to procure irregularities and illegalities. They should stand tall and defend their space, since an institution is a rule that persists over time despite who is in power, according to research already done. Mr. Speaker, they need to be populated with men and women of honor, candor, and courage, and not spineless apologists who are only too keen to suck up to the whims of power that be or the appointing authority. They need to learn from our independent judiciary, and in this case the Senate, as to know that even them, their rights too are protected by the Constitution through the rule of law. To anyone out there whose rights and fundamental freedoms have been infringed upon, keep fighting, keep questioning, keep looking for answers to the problems at hand, for it's only in this way that human advancement and excellence is attained. It doesn't matter the fear, intimidation, denial of privilege, name-calling, and mudslinging. Stand up, define yourself, and do not allow to see yourself through the lenses of others. Show to the world the stuff that you are made of, for it's not only authentic and original, it is the essence of the mosaic of our diversity. And that too is what makes the world go around as an interesting place to live in. To those who took the opportunity to body shame and call us out on the basis of anatomy, morphology, and or physiology, I want to remind them the words of Martin Luther King Jr., that no man should be judged on the color of their skin, but purely on the content of their character. We are much more than the presentation that comes with basic appearance, and our clarion is to put it out there so that even if we do not agree with you politically, we too have something to contribute towards making Kenya a great country, standing tall in the community and comity of nations. Long live Kenya, long live democracy through the rule of law. Thanks be to the God Almighty. God bless Kenya. I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Mwaura. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Leader of majority.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, 1st December 2021. 1, the 8th State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President, delivered at a special sitting of Parliament on Tuesday, 30th November 2021. 2, the 8th Annual Report on the measures taken, the 8th Annual Report 2020 on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of national values and principles of governance. 3, the 8th Annual Report on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya. And 4, the Annual Report to Parliament on the state of the national security. And 5, the Kenya Business Climate Reforms Milestones Report for the year 2020-2021. I thank you.
Next order.
Order number 6, notice of motion.
Leader.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That pursuant to Standing Order 24-6, the thanks of the Senate be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of His Excellency the President, delivered on Tuesday, 30th November 2021, and further that the Senate notes the following reports submitted by His Excellency the President in fulfillment of Articles 132(1)(c) and 247 of the Constitution laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 1st December 2021. 1, the 8th State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President, delivered at a special sitting of Parliament on Tuesday, 30th November 2021. 2, the 8th Annual Report on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of national values and principles of governance. 3, the 8th Annual Report on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya. 4, the Annual Report to Parliament on the State of National Security 2021. And 5, the Kenya Business Climate Reforms Milestones Report for the year 2020-2021. Thank you, Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 7, statements. Order number 8, motion, debate on the President's address to Parliament, first day.
Where is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Speaker, first I thought I would use this opportunity to welcome back Senator Mwaura to the House. Speaker, I know Senator Mwaura to be concerned mostly about discriminative issues and particularly fighting for the voiceless, and I want to see that he continues to do that from this House and from outside this House. Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to Standing Order number 24-6, the thanks of the Senate be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of His Excellency the President, delivered on Tuesday, 30th November 2021, and further that the Senate notes the following reports submitted to by His Excellency the President in fulfillment of Articles 132 plus 1 para C and 240 plus 7 of the Constitution laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 1st December 2021, and that's 1, the 8th State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President that was delivered at a special sitting of Parliament on Tuesday, 30th November 2021. 2, the 8th Annual Report 2020 on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of national values and principles of governance. 3, the 8th Annual Report on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya. 4, the Annual Report to Parliament on the State of National Security 2021. And 5, the Kenya Business Climate Reforms Milestones Report for the year 2020-2021. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya, as cited, instructs the President to report to a special sitting, joint sitting of both houses of Parliament on the measures taken and progress made in a realization of the national values as stipulated in Article 10 of the Constitution, status of fulfillment of the international obligations, the state of Kenya's security, and general state of the nation. The President recognized the intrinsic support of Parliament and county governments in addressing the national crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic as protectors of interests of county governments. I commend the Senate for the support it gave to the President and the county governments because of those measures taken by both the governments, Mr. Speaker, especially measures on fiscal stimuli. The impact of COVID-19 on the economy was 14 times lesser than the global economy. The Speaker, over and above the tax stimuli that were given, that warranted the National Exchequer to forego taxes amounting to 176 billion. The President further rolled out the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya policy, the Kasim Tayani program that secured over 750,000 gainful engagement for the youth. SME credit guarantee was given, hiring of teachers in education sector was made, enhancing the universal health coverage, which is in process, supply of farm inputs and manufacturing. These measures, Mr. Speaker, and interventions have reinforced resilience of our economy and grew the economy by a 10.1% in one quarter. A third intervention unveiled in October focuses on agricultural core sector, the health and sanitation sector, and then the energy, and of course there was credit facilitation for business people. Speaker, on the ease of doing business, the President is keen on the agenda of ease of doing business and to see the fulfillment of automation, the full automation and streamlining of payment of taxes,
to redesign import and export processes. Impressively, Mr. Speaker, Kenya becomes a global first on how to host the first European investment bank outside of Europe. And that was given to us in that statement yesterday. Mr. Speaker, the sentiments from the just concluded annual devolution conference have also been addressed by the President, who noted that the government was committed to combat desertification, address climate change, increase forest cover, and promote the blue economy. Honorable Senators, the tree cover has increased from 6% to 8.8%. On the blue economy, the legal framework is intended to protect the fishing industry and to the members who come from the coastal sector. They realize, Mr. Speaker, that it will be the first in Kenya for this to happen. After so many years of just leaving people to come and fish illegally on our shores, this has now become something that is protected under a new organization that has been set up for Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to think that maybe we should say a little bit about the Big Four agenda. The President focused on that. The President is committed to ensure equality in government services to evade poverty. In addition, the government has made immense strides in the Big Push investment that the President mentioned yesterday. The Big Push, Mr. Speaker, program has seen the revival of Kenya Meat Commission, the expansion of Kipevu oil refinery berth, the opening of economic towns. Mr. Speaker, the President touched on the infrastructure projects such as the Lamu Port, the dual carriage across the country, especially the Rironi Mau Summit. Mr. Speaker, the input in the economy has ushered the country to a place where we are now ready to take off in industrialization. Mr. Speaker, the President intends that this country would shorten the period for being an industrialized country, which has taken many countries several years to reach. We wanted to do it, we want to do it, we are preparing, or the government is preparing, Mr. Speaker, for that takeoff in short time. That's why the emphasis is on infrastructure, on the SGR, on the dual carriage, on the tarmac roads in every county, and some counties, as emphasized with the Speaker, having tarmac roads for their very first time in many years. The Speaker, most importantly, the President was articulate on the territorial integrity of Kenya, noting that the government has preserved the territorial integrity of Kenya. In fact, Mr. Speaker, as the President said, it is intact and unencumbered, which means, Mr. Speaker, that the President said it in other words that he's not going to allow an inch of Kenya's territory to be interfered with, and he doesn't need an inch more than is given to Kenya, Mr. Speaker. So that God created Kenya and God gave us Kenya, and that we must therefore protect Kenya and its territorial integrity. Mr. Speaker, the speech is very clear. Those of us who listened to it through, you know, Mr. Speaker, that it is a long speech, but, Mr. Speaker, it covered almost every area. And so to give members an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to conclude on this matter, Mr. Speaker, the President further addressed the achievements of his administration for the last 8 years. And those he gave, and they're in the report, Mr. Speaker, and I hope the members can take time to look at it, he gave a very detailed account of his achievements and his administration in the last 8 years. And so, Mr. Speaker, with this summary of what I think captures the speech of the President, and to allow members to discuss this in detail, I therefore move, Mr. Speaker, with these remarks, I beg to move and request Senator Orengo, who is the minority leader in the House, to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Leader of Minority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second this motion and associate myself with the remarks made by the majority leader. Mr. Speaker, I would want to put the performance of the Jubilee government in context. And if we don't go through the part of the material that was presented to us yesterday in the presidential speech, one can easily be driven away by propaganda and other political statements that tend to denigrate what has been done or achieved in the last 8 years. And Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying that the NAC government that was elected in the year 2002 was important in laying the foundations of what we are seeing being done today. And so was the Grand Coalition government under the leadership of President Mwai Kibaki and Raila Amolo Odinga. It should be remembered that it was during that Grand Coalition government that we attained a new constitutional dispensation. After a lot of challenges, after a lot of politicking in the country, but eventually the Grand Coalition government steered the national objective of attaining a new constitutional order to success. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, there was also the question of Vision 2030, and that Vision 2030, you know, it came about during the NAC government and partly during the Grand Coalition government. I'm mentioning this important declaration or policy statements because you could hear from the President's speech yesterday reference to the Vision 2030 and also a constant reference to our new constitutional dispensation. And Mr. Speaker, it is therefore always very important in the life of a nation that policies are established that guide the government of the day and the people of the country generally, you know, in trying to make political and economic progress. And Mr. Speaker, there was also reference in the speech by the President about what has happened, particularly in the Far East. We like talking about the Asian tigers, the successes of South Korea, the successes of Singapore, the successes of Malaysia, and many others. And in this list of Asian tigers, you find countries like Vietnam, which endured a long period of war, now rising up and becoming a reference point in that part of the world. I would say that if you can have Asian tigers, why don't we have African lions? And it looks like, you know, whenever we talk about new and emerging industrial and economic powerhouses and probably new democracies, we are talking about the Asian tigers. And Africa does not seem to be featuring very well by comparison. And I want to say that the Asian tigers, if you look at them properly and do an analysis, they were strong in governance, very, very strong in governance. And in contradistinction to the other Asian countries, they were the points at which democracy started to emerge and survived. For example, Korea South Korea was a dictatorship for a very long time. And the economic miracle came about when issues of governance were taken very seriously in Korea. In Singapore and Malaysia, we may have had some very strong leaders. The prime ministers of both Singapore and Malaysia were very strong political figures. But they never compromised on the question of the issue of governance. And in comparison with the other countries in that part of the world, we could see that the space for democracy and judicial institutions were valued. And going back to the other countries in Asia, who are very strong, like Japan, again from a mighty empire with a strong monarchical institutions, the greatness of Japan in the modern era again has come about by being open and building strong democratic institutions. China, again, which was mentioned quite profusely by the president. China, again, I think from the old times, immediately after the revolution in China, after the Second World War, China began to open up. And when it opened up, I think China grew in all sectors. So again, China, although being a one-party state, a lot of what has happened in China is because the country was opened up. Madam Speaker, if you remember, there was a Chinese leader who once said, when he was being accused of being a capitalist, advocate of capitalism rather than a communist, he remarked that he doesn't care about the color of the cat, whether it is black or white, so long as it can catch mice. So in a way, he was trying to say that the objectives of making China a great nation was to make sure that China grew to be an industrial powerhouse, and where the ordinary person could see the full benefit and fruits of the Chinese efforts in trying to build that country. So what am I trying to say? I'm saying that even in our country, we need to take firmly on issues of governance. If we can go firmly and say that Kenya is not a nation that is going to be ruled by, the whims of an individual or a group of individuals, but is going to be a country of laws, and laws which are based on justice, democracy, and human rights. I think once we make a choice to go through that path or that trajectory, I think what has been said in the speech by the president will be attained. And secondly, so long as we build our democracy and our institutions, we stand to gain. Now, Madam Speaker, I didn't want really to take long in seconding this motion. But now the great debate, and in fact instances when we're doing appreciating Senator Mwaura for coming back to these chambers, there were comments which were being made about the handshake. And I want to say without fear of contradiction that anybody who saw Kenya as it was in 2013 and 2017, or previously in this cycle of elections, as a country we are moving in the wrong direction. And we have always moved in the right direction by making certain compromises. The strength of President Kibaki, and I know that at the time when Kibaki, as president, decided to work with Raila Amolo Odinga, and if you look at the accord which was signed by both of them, as individual leaders and as leaders of their political parties, it was not very popular amongst, certain politicians in this country. And imagine in the year 2007, we did not have the grand coalition government. I am certain that to achieving the Constitution of 2010 would have been extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. And this Constitution has been a very important achievement in our country, and we continue to congratulate ourselves because of the 2010 Constitution. And in the year 2013, 2017, eventually when President Uhuru Kenyatta decided to work with Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, again there were cynics, there were skeptics, and who said that this was not the right thing to do. There are instances all over the world where we can say leaders get together for the sake of the country to make them advance. And there are examples in Europe, in the United Kingdom, when Churchill became the prime minister, when that country was going through a very difficult time because of the war in Europe, the Second World War. We have seen in the United States of America, they were very difficult to distinguish political parties at the beginning of that, what became the United States of America. In fact, if you look at categorization of the first president of the United States of America, George Washington, he is listed as an independent. And that's why he was able to carry 4 or 5 people who eventually also became presidents of the United States of America. Great ideas coming together and forming a synergy, which then is used to build the country to greater heights. I think that those within Jubilee who keep to be cynics and skeptics and undermining the objectives of the unity between Raila Amolo Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta. I think if you read this speech thoroughly, we all heard this speech, but if you read it thoroughly, one cannot reach any other conclusion but that the handshake gave this country an opportunity to advance forward and do the things that mattered to our people generally. Thank you.
The Minister then?
Yeah, I'm happy that there were a few things which the President announced which are important to the ordinary people. One was this question of making restrictions on withdrawals or bankings of $1 million shillings or more. I think a lot of people have been suffering, quietly and quite loudly also. Because some of these restrictions make it very difficult for the ordinary business people who do small enterprises, some of it which, even having records become very difficult. And I think that went quite well in that speech. Then the interventions that the President talked about, which I think, again, were critical. These interventions, he had spelled them out during the Madaraka Day celebrations in the tea sector, in the sugar sector, in the coffee sector, and these interventions, Madam Speaker, made it possible for us to go through the pandemic with, some damage, but it could have been worse, absent these interventions which were listed out in the President's speech. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I hope that we will appreciate what has been done, particularly in the last 5 years, because if there was no handshake, all these 5 years would have been about 2022. But with the handshake, we were able now to talk about infrastructure, talk about the health sector, talk about the agricultural sector, talk about the big five. And now, as recorded in the President's speech, we can discern what has been done by the government, but with the support of the opposition. And we don't want to apologize for it. We were doing it for a good reason, to keep the unity of the nation together, to make sure that the people in this generation get their fair share of the resources of this country and advance to the next level. Madam Speaker, with those remarks, I beg to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rengo. Honorable Senators, I would now like to propose the motion that pursuant to Standing Order 24-6, the thanks of the Senate be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of His Excellency, the President, delivered on Tuesday, 30th November 2021, and further, that the Senate notes the following reports submitted by His Excellency, the President, in fulfillment of Articles 132(1)(c) and 247 of the Constitution, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 1st December 2021. 1. The 8th State of the Nation Address by His Excellency, the President, delivered on a special sitting of Parliament on Tuesday, 30th November 2021. 2. The 8th Annual Report, 2020, the Report 2020, on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of national values and principles of governance. 3. The 8th Annual Report on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya. 4. The Annual Report of Parliament on the State of National Security 2021. And finally, the 5th, the Kenya Business Climate Reforms Milestones Report for the year 2020-2021. Honorable Inima Gertrude Musurube.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity that you have accorded me to actually support the motion on the President's address to the nation. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to just echo what is rightfully to be echoed here, that when it comes to one of the salient or key functions of the President is to actually address Parliament. And the President addresses Parliament when it is newly reconstituted, In a year, he can address 1 or 2 times. And even special occasions, special times, he can also choose to address Parliament, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I want to say that this is something very commendable, because when it comes to the key arms of the government, we have the executive that is actually represented by the president. We have the legislature that is represented by Parliament, and we have the judiciary, Honorable Speaker. So when the president deliberately, and as he so did yesterday, decided to address the whole nation and the representatives of people, it is something very commendable that he opted to do this before the year comes to a close, Honorable Speaker. We can all remember, Honorable Speaker, that last year, because of COVID-related issues, the president was not able to address Parliament. But he chose an opportune moment to address Parliament so that before the year comes to a close, he's accountable to Kenyans. He's accountable also to, the legislature, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I want to say that he effectively executed Article 131 of the Constitution that obligates him to do exactly that. Honorable Speaker, and when he's addressing, the legislature, it is very clear that he has to address and tell the whole nation what exactly he has done with regard to national values, Honorable Speaker. And the national values are very clear, Honorable Speaker. When you look at Article 10 of the Constitution, it is very clear that one of the key national values is that of patriotism, that of unity, and this he came out very strongly in his address, and also that of sustainable development, Honorable Speaker. And even as you talk about sustainable, Honorable Speaker, the whole world must know, and Kenya must know, Honorable Speaker, that during this COVID time, it was a risky moment. A risky moment in the sense that economies went down, Honorable Speaker. But during the COVID time, I just want to thank the President for the raft of measures that he came up to cushion Kenyans, to ensure that even though we are going through, a crisis moment during COVID, Kenyans were cushioned, Honorable Speaker. And I well remember very well, and it came out also on his speech, and it was executed on the ground, Honorable Speaker, that those people, workers who are earning less than 24,000 were not paying tax during the COVID moments, Honorable Speaker. And also, Honorable Speaker, even when it comes to interest rates at the banks, they came down, Honorable Speaker. And a number of measures were actually executed to ensure that the economy did not go down. And even in the midst of COVID, Honorable Speaker, Kenya also performed well economically, Honorable Speaker. And this is something we must commend the President about, Honorable Speaker. What is good, and it ought to be commended, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that it was just imperative that the President addresses the nation. It was just imperative that he lets Kenyans know what has he done with regard especially to, Honorable Speaker, Article 43 of the Constitution. It talks about socio-economic rights, Honorable Speaker. And it was good for the President to come before Kenyans and tell us what exactly has he done. We are talking of Article 43 that talks about everyone has a right to the highest attainable standards of health, Honorable Speaker. And it came out truly in the speech of the President that a number of hospitals have been upgraded, Honorable Speaker. Like Kenyatta University Hospital has been upgraded, Honorable Speaker. And a number of hospitals have also been built, Honorable Speaker. When it comes to health, it is first priority, Honorable Speaker. And it is very clear that Kenya is among the party states that signed, that signed the international law to say that it was going to protect people's lives in terms of health. And Honorable Speaker, coming up with hospitals is something that is commendable, Honorable Speaker. And I also want to commend the President also for coming up with, cancer-related facilities, Honorable Speaker. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, as a cancer survivor, I know the agony that cancer patients go through, Honorable Speaker. Most of them have to go to, outside of Kenya in order for, their diseases to be, identified, in order for them to be detected, and in order also for treatment to be done. But I'm happy to know that even in Kenya, cancer can now be treated, Honorable Speaker. Last week, I remember, Honorable Speaker, I visited an auntie of mine, Auntie Regine, who has arthritis. She was going through a harrowing moment. And when I was in India, I remember there are some Kenyans who would go to India for the purpose of being treated for arthritis. But that Auntie Regine was treated just here in Kenya, Honorable Speaker. So this is something commendable, that we do not have to import medics, Honorable Speaker. We do not have to import health, Honorable Speaker. We have to train our own medics, Honorable Speaker. And it was very clear in the President's speech, Honorable Speaker, that a number of medics are being treated, are being trained, Honorable Speaker. And this is something that should be done year in, year out, Honorable Speaker, so that we ease the burden of Kenyans who keep going abroad for the purpose of treatment, Honorable Speaker. We don't have to import, medics, Honorable Speaker, but we can train our own oncologists. We can train our own anesthesists. We can train our own, Honorable Speaker, so that we make maximum use of the Kenyans that we have, Honorable Speaker. And I know, Honorable Speaker, Kenyans are very productive. When it comes to intelligence, Kenyans are intelligent. Can we make optimal use of Kenyans, Honorable Speaker? Honorable Speaker, when it comes to the issue of water, constitutionally, Article 43, every Kenyan has the right to clean water. Honorable Speaker, from the speech of the President, Honorable Speaker, it is very clear that the boreholes in the country were few, especially in the arid, areas. But more than 200 boreholes have been sunk, Honorable Speaker. Water is a necessity, Honorable Speaker. We cannot do without water, Honorable Speaker. Even our body, Honorable Speaker, the composition of our body is also water, Honorable Speaker. One can survive on water, Honorable Speaker. We cannot do much without water. Even domestically, we find what should rightfully be acknowledged, Honorable Speaker. The President talked about rural electrification, Honorable Speaker, which is also very important, Honorable Speaker. There's some areas, even from the colonial areas, they have never seen electricity. And Honorable Speaker, I want to commend the President for coming up with a rural electrification program, and I want to urge him even to do more, especially when it comes to rural electrification, Honorable Speaker. Even come 2022, whoever takes the mantle, Honorable Speaker, should spearhead this issue of electrification, Honorable Speaker, because there are still some Kenyans who have not been connected, Honorable Speaker. So I want to commend the President for what he has done, and I want to say that this is something that should be sustainable, Honorable Speaker. And when it comes to schools, Honorable Speaker, there's 100% transition. And from the speech, it was very clear that a number of classrooms have been constructed, Honorable Speaker. Now, construction of classrooms is a core in ensuring 100% transition, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, education is key. It lies the life of everyone. And if there's any inequality among people, that inequality is actually, the curve comes down through education, Honorable Speaker. So I want to commend the President for coming up with the plan that he did of constructing classrooms. And Honorable Speaker, not to forget about the President's speech, he talked about the toxic political climate in this country, Honorable Speaker. And he came out clearly to say that the whole is better than parts, Honorable Speaker. And he talked about the expanded executive as a measure of ensuring that everyone has a share of the national cake, Honorable Speaker. This is very important, Honorable Speaker. And even in his speech, it was very clear that women representation in Parliament is core, and it has to be, the fronted, Honorable Speaker, so that we have more representation of women in Parliament, and also representation of, the vulnerable, Honorable Speaker, like people with disability, Honorable Speaker. It is unthinkable. It is something that we need to really see to it, that representation of persons with disabilities in the Senate is increases, Honorable Speaker. We can have the representation that is constitutionally given, and also in elective positions, Honorable Speaker. parties must ensure that they hold the people, the hands of people with disabilities who want to vie for elective seats, Honorable Speaker. So that even in the Senate, we have about 10 PWDs. In the National Assembly, we have 20 PWDs, Honorable Speaker. It is something that is achievable. So I'm urging political parties, even when you're making your party list, ensure that we have persons with disabilities. Ensure we have women with disabilities who want to vie. Ensure that we have men with disabilities who want to vie. Because persons with disabilities want to be involved in decision-making, Honorable Speaker. And gone are the days, Honorable Speaker, when persons with disabilities were seen from a pity paradigm. Because persons with disabilities can even contribute positively, Honorable Speaker. They need to be the decision-making table, Honorable Speaker. Let the nominated positions be there. In the elected positions, let us have also persons with disabilities doing that, Honorable Speaker. What persons with disabilities need in this country and world over is an opportunity for decision-making. Honorable Speaker, the time for handouts for persons with disabilities is gone, Honorable Speaker. We are not living in those days, Honorable Speaker. What persons with disabilities need is an opportunity to advance themselves, is an opportunity to advance others, is an opportunity to be productive in the society, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and this must be a challenge to political parties, that they must ensure that on their party list, elected members of parliament, or those who want to vie, must be persons with disabilities, must also be women, Honorable Speaker, so that when it comes to the House, Honorable Speaker, the House is fully inclusive, because this is one of the national values that the President mentioned. Article 10 talks about inclusivity. We cannot have inclusivity when persons with disabilities are actually not represented, even in decision-making, even in governance. Honorable Speaker, when women are not also fairly represented in decision-making, then I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that will flout Article 10 of this Constitution, Honorable Speaker. So I want to thank the President for coming out clearly to say that some issues that were actually, flouted, or some issues that were not accepted during the BBI, they need to be rethinked. The issue of 2/3, the issues of persons with disabilities, the issue of even money going to the county governments. And the President came out clearly to say that, yes, money is going to the county government, but it's not enshrined in law, Honorable Speaker. It has to be enshrined in law, Honorable Speaker, because when we are representing people, the people we are representing, and Kenyans must know that we are representing them, is that person in the county. And money must go to the county, Honorable Speaker, so that when it goes to the county, Honorable Speaker, development can be there, education can be improved, and also, Honorable Speaker, everyone can get a service, because that is what Senate is mandated to do, Honorable Speaker. We are here to represent people. We are here to represent Wananchi. We cannot represent Wananchi if money is not going to the county, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Langat, Christopher Andrew.
May I have, okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me this golden opportunity to make my contribution on the 8th State of the Earth address by the President to the nation. And I want to say, just from the onset of the speech of the President, that the expectation of Kenyans was so high, and I want to appreciate that in the very beginning, the President mentioned that Kenya is bigger than all of us, or rather Kenya is greater than every one of us. If this one is put in practice, Madam Speaker, everyone in this country will be able to realize the importance of being a citizen in this nation. And I want to appreciate also the way the President, in a nostalgic way, narrated from the time he was a nominated member of Parliament in this particular house, the moment he was also elected to become the member of Parliament, the time he was the Minister of Finance, the time he was the Deputy President, the Prime Minister, and currently being the President of this great nation. And I want also to say something about how he mentioned something to do with COVID-19 pandemic, the struggles that all of us went in this particular country during that particular moment where the nation was so much suffering because of the COVID-19. The challenge, and something that I want to mention on this one, Madam Speaker, is that I would have also expected the President of the nation, to assure Kenyans on the measures that are being taken seriously to bring to book the COVID-19 billionaires. When the President mentioned about the milestones that we've gone through in an attempt to manage the COVID-19 pandemic, up to and including the company in the coast that is rapidly manufacturing the COVID-19 vaccination drugs or medicine, we really appreciated that the company is one of the greatest and of its own kind in Africa. But what Kenyans also was expecting to hear is the steps that are being taken to bring to book and punish the COVID-19 billionaires, which really, instead of having taken position to help Kenyans come out of the pandemic, they took advantage of the scenario of the suffering that we are in and made themselves billionaires. So I would have become happier if the President also had mentioned the measures, the rapid measures that he has taken to make sure that the COVID-19 billionaires are also punished. Because punishing the COVID-19 billionaires, Madam Speaker, will reduce and set example to those people who always take advantage of such situations, such suffering, to enrich themselves. I want also to appreciate the fact that the President mentioned the 8-point program that was to benefit most of the needy Kenyans and most of the youths. He was able to mention that 750,000 youths have benefited from that particular program. Kenyans also were wondering so loud, 750,000 people in this country is a drop in the Pacific Ocean. I want to say that the greatest challenge that affected this particular 8-point program that had been introduced by the President is corruption and lack of policy framework. When you check seriously, the people who have really benefited from this particular program are very few because of lack of effective framework that was supposed to be set by the government on how this particular money was supposed to be administered so that it reached the real people on the ground who are very needy. Otherwise, it benefited relatives of some of those who are directors of these particular programs. It also benefited some regions which were maybe well to do in political matters. Otherwise, if you go to some areas like where some of us come from, which maybe some people are not are thinking that they are not politically correct, you will find out that these programs have not benefited those particular youths in where we come from. So I would request that for this particular program to be felt on the ground, I would write to request the Office of the President to make a proper audit that cuts across all the 47 counties so that it becomes so clear that these particular 750,000 youths who benefited come from where and which particular youth really benefited from this particular program. So I emphasize that when such programs comes out, clear policy framework be put in place so that the correct people may really benefit from the same. Also, an audit framework should be done clearly so that these particular programs are audited to ensure that the correct people benefit from the same. I'm also happy that the President touched on education. This is my area. I'm an educationist, Madam Speaker, and I was so keen to hear something to do with this particular education sector. The President mentioned clearly that they have managed to employ 10,000 teachers and another around 1,000 on internship. I really appreciate this. But I want to bring to cognizance of this particular great house that this country is still facing a great challenge, especially on the matters to do with the new system, the new education system, the curriculum-based education system. It is actually turning out to be a very expensive system, and I would like to say that this particular program, Madam Speaker, is still a great challenge, more so to the teachers who have not been given enough capacity building to handle this particular program. There is also a shortage of classrooms cutting across all over in our country, that there are very few classrooms which are of the standards. When you go to, particularly in Bomet, when you go to most of the primary schools and most of the secondary schools, there are still, there is still a great shortage of classrooms, and the classrooms that are still existing are temporary classrooms. So I want to really request that the President should still check on this particular area and put more funding so that teachers are given more capacity building so that they can really handle this particular program effectively. And also the more money should be given to Teacher Service Commission. I'm surprised that wherever I get to schools in Bomet, and I'm sure it's a replica of what is happening in other counties, there are more teachers who are employed by parents under PTA than those who are employed by the government. Go to the village today and try to tell those people education is free in this country. They'll tell you it is never free. Most of the primary schools and secondary schools are still employing more teachers than those who are sent by the government. Education is still very expensive to our parents in this country, and I want to say that for the citizen to feel that education is free, I would like to challenge the government to employ all the teachers, up to and including those who are serving under PTA, so that the parents are relieved from the burden of the expense of education in this country. I was also very happy when the President mentioned stimulus on agricultural sector. I come from Rift Valley, which is the food basket of this country, and I want to mention that we really appreciate the efforts by the government that they have put to at least address the issues and the challenges that the farmers are facing. But when the President mentioned about the subsidy on fertilizers and the rest of the things to the tea farmers, and I want to say that when it comes to coffee, it is yes. The coffee farmers felt the subsidy by the government. But the tea farmers, Madam Speaker, and the sugar belt farmers have not felt the support by the government on matters to do with tea sector and the sugar belt farmers. For example, when it comes to the tea, up to this time, the bonuses that the tea farmers are receiving in Kericho, Bomet, and those other zones is so minimal. In fact, most of them have gone to the point of neglecting tea farming completely because it is no longer paying them as expected. So I would like to call upon the government to support the tea farmers, more so at this particular time, to give them more money so that they can subsidize the fertilizers and the roads construction, and even the electricity. The cost of electricity or the cost of energy in the tea factories, in tea farming areas is still very expensive. So I would like to request the government or ask the government to subsidize the energy in the factories that are actually processing tea so that the cost of processing tea becomes at least manageable by the farmers. On the energy, I was also expecting the President to mention something strongly on the high cost of energy and petroleum in our country, putting into consideration that the energy is the basis of industrialization. In fact, if the cost of the energy in this country continues skyrocketing, I want to mention, Madam Speaker, that generating employment and self-employment for our youth will still be a challenge. Remember, currently, there are so many factories that have stopped working, especially even in the tea sector, where I come from, because of the cost of energy. I would like to really request the president to consider lowering the cost of energy in this country and petroleum, because that is the basis of encouraging the industrialization in this country, so that when the industries comes, automatically it will generate employment for our youths. So I call upon that the energy sector and the petroleum be considered by the president and more so that it creates more industrialization or industries in our country which will really give employment to the youths. On climate change, I would like to appreciate the efforts by the government in afforestation and reforestation. This is so important because it will enable our country to be stable and reduce the pollution and increase the forest cover, which will attract rain and make our country comfortable. I was expecting also, lastly, I was expecting seriously the president to talk on more robust measures to curb insecurity in this country. Insecurity is still a problem in our country. You have had abduction. We have heard of a lot of problems in Laikipia, a lot of problems in West Pokot and Turkana, and I would like to mention that robust government measures should be put in place so that all Kenyans live at peace. I would have also said that the president also mentioned the fact that PPI could have really solved some issues, but I want to differ with him there and say that to solve the current problems, we don't necessarily need to change the constitution, but we need to fight corruption. We need also to emphasize and expand democratic framework in our country, and more so, we also need to preach peace and ensure that security is everywhere in our country, so that as we head towards election, all people will vote at peace. Otherwise, I want to appreciate all that took place yesterday and say that if all that I've mentioned are taken into consideration, I think the president would have really earned more appreciation than what we have as of now. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Make a contribution on the debate on the State of the Nation address by the President, which he presented yesterday. Madam Speaker, we welcome this address because it's an obligation of the President as is stipulated in the Constitution. I, however, noted, Madam Speaker, that the State of the Nation address did not have any member of the public in the public gallery, which I thought, despite of the COVID restrictions, they would have also practiced social distance and allowed members of the public to be a part of this important exercise. That said, Madam Speaker, the President started by talking about the unity of the country and said that as a country or as citizens of this country, we should strive to put Kenya first and have a shared vision which is only not applicable in the country, but also with our neighbors in the East African region. His speech dwelt mostly on how we responded to the pandemics. We had two pandemics, one was an epidemic, the swarm of locusts. The other one was COVID, the pandemic COVID-19, and he dwelt mainly on our response to the pandemic COVID-19, which bedeviled the whole world. Madam Speaker, he talked about how we should have seen or how we saw opportunity in this crisis rather than see the problems only as associated with this crisis. He said that because of our proper response to this crisis of COVID, we had 14 times lesser impact on the economy compared to the rest of the world. So our economic stimulus interventions helped us deal in a better way than the world did economically. People
GOSO opportunities. We talked about the Revital organization in Kilifi that started making vaccination syringes and exporting the same. He talked about Hela, a company that started dealing with the protection equipment, masks, and the clothes that our medics were wearing. He, however, forgot to mention Kitui as one of the success stories of devolution that actually started making masks and distributing them to hospitals across the country, masks which they were making at the Kitui Textile Company. We should not lose the fact that devolution is working, and where it is working, we should always strive to praise our leaders. And it's important to note that the governor of Kitui is a woman, and we know that once we have women leaders, we'll continue to have such great innovations. In times of crisis, women always perform better, and even at family level. So we want to congratulate Kitui, the governor, Charity Ngilu, for being part of this success story, seeing an opportunity in a crisis. Thank you. Madam Speaker, the President also talked about the status, the first icon that he needed to talk about in his speech as stipulated in the Constitution was the state of our economic development. And he said that in spite of COVID-19 in 2020, we had a 0.3% economic growth, which has gone up to 10.01% in 2021, in the first quarter of 2021, using the real GDP. Madam Speaker, however, I have an issue with this so-called economic, the rate of economic development being at 10.1% in the first quarter, when Kenyans are suffering. So when we talk about economic development, it is development for who? Because majority of Kenyans, if they don't have money in their pockets, what the ANC party calls pesa mufukoni, then there is no, you cannot talk about economic development if it's only for the few or the 10 billionaires in the country, when the other millions of the country are not feeling that. So we need to start calculating or investigate when we talk about economic development, what does it mean for the normal or mwananchi, the normal Kenyan? Not just the billionaires of this country. We want to also feel that there's economic development for everybody and there is pesa mufukoni for all Kenyans. Madam Speaker, the President also talked about a revival of the agricultural sector. He said they injected some money in the tea and coffee sector, and that there are good bonuses in that sector. Then he talked about that there is smoke in the sugar mills. I almost stood up in shock, because if the biggest sugar company, Mumias Sugar, there's no smoke, which sugar mill was this the President was talking about? We still insist that we need more attention given to sugar factories, especially in the western region, and we want to see these sugar factories up. We want some seriousness put into this, and we are hoping that the next government that will come into power next year, 2022, and hopefully it will be the presidency of His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi through the ANC party and One Kenya Alliance, to make sure that his next speech, yes, that his next speech, his next State of the Nation address will be giving us good news on this issue of sugar mills. The off-take programs for the livestock sector are welcome. We have seen KMC has indeed come up. Farmers are being paid their monies within 3 days rather than the years that they were waiting for. Our young people, especially who are listed on the Credit Reference Bureau and therefore limiting their access to loans, have been delisted from that CRB, as the President told us, and we are grateful, and we are hoping that the very many MSMEs that are listed in the CRB in the Credit Reference Bureau will also be looked at, and not just because of COVID, but moving forward, because some of these people were put on the CRB list during COVID when everybody was affected economically. We know also that KRA has also met its targets. We have been told this before, and the President emphasized that they are collecting more money than ever before in spite of COVID. So we wonder what is it that they were doing that they were not doing right before. If at all in times of a crisis, they're able to collect more money. We are hoping that this was another opportunity that we have seen in the crisis, and that KRA is going to perform, is one of the success stories of the opportunities in COVID. Madam Speaker, the President, of course, talked about the increase in ICU beds, which was also another opportunity. We only had a few, in fact, some hospitals even at the counties did not have ICU beds. But because of the stimuli that the government put in the counties, we have had a 502% increase in ICU beds in our public hospitals. We only had one lab for testing notifiable diseases. Now we have 95 labs, as we were informed by the President. So even as we continue to suffer the consequences of COVID, we have also seen that there were quite a number of opportunities that it gave us to grow ourselves, to look at our weaknesses and look at what is the most important thing, which is our health. And Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, he also informed us that they have put up several hospitals and encouraged more private players to put up hospitals. That is a welcome thing. We want more investors to put up hospitals rather than putting up malls, because we've realized that when at the times of crisis, hospitals are more important than malls. Malls are closing now. No one is visiting them because of COVID, but people need hospitals more. That gave us an opportunity to grow our health sector, and probably will continue to be the medical tourism hub for this region. Madam Speaker, he also informed us that COVID, of course, showed us that we need now to invest more in ICT, in the ICT sector, and that is a welcome idea. We are all now, in fact, like this meeting or this session is hybrid. We are doing both physical and Zoom, so that people who are not able to attend these meetings, we have very many of us who have not attended these sessions for a long time, but they are able to participate through COVID. That begs the question, Madam Speaker, of Konza, the Konza Technopolis. The President did not touch on it, seeing that he told us ICT is the future. We want a law that should be put in place to guide the Konza Technopolis. I know that there is a bill coming up so that Konza is not run on the whims of a Prime Minister, that there is a specific law, a specific bill that is used to run the Konza Technopolis as the center of our ICT now and in the future. Madam Speaker, the President concluded by talking about nationhood, and he focused on democracy. He talked about the issue of BBI that failed to take off. We do not want to discuss more about BBI now, because it is in the courts and some of the things have been overtaken by events, but it was a good idea that was unstrategically implemented, and we hope that, as he has promised to bring it back whenever it is he wants to bring it back, and we hope that it will be now strategically implemented so that it is less political and people are able to embrace it. He talked about an increase in the cancer diagnosis centers, but I would like to urge the President to ensure that cancer is declared a national disaster, so that more efforts are paid to the issues of cancer diagnosis, treatment, and even hospice care of cancer patients. If they declared it a national disaster, it would show more commitment to this issue, because it is ravaging everybody, just like COVID is. It does not choose who you are in society, whether you are at a high level or low level, whether you're poor or rich, young or old, we are all being ravaged by cancer. So I urge the President to declare cancer a national disaster. I want to congratulate him on the Linda Mama program, which offers free maternity, and we have more women giving birth under good quality, healthy conditions. We thank him for that and urge our women to continue giving birth safely and build this country. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Halaka Abshiro Soka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support and to give my input into the 8th Presidential State of the Nation address, as well as speak to some of the papers that have been that the President has also given us, which is basically the 8th annual report on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of the national values and principles of governance, the 8th annual report on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya, the annual report to the Parliament on the state of national security, and the business climate reforms milestone report for the year 2020-2021. Madam Speaker, allow me to congratulate His Excellency the President, first of all, for upholding his constitutional obligations under Article 132(1)(c) and 247 of the Constitution of Kenya, and for, without fail, addressing the nation on measures he has taken on the national state of our nation every year since 2014, when he came, when he was elected president of this country. Madam Speaker, this is a president that's accountable to his people, a president that has shown the humility and the support he has provided. When a report is looked at, when listening to his speech yesterday and just reading some of these reports, I'm in awe of how much was actually done. Sometimes it's very easy to focus on what hasn't happened. It's very easy to look at the glass as half full as opposed to half empty. But that having been said, the chronology of events, the list of things that have been done, the progress that has been done, the infrastructural and other frameworks that have been put in place are definitely something for this country to celebrate and to congratulate His Excellency the President. Rome was not built in a day, Madam Speaker. The foundation stone must be laid. And if there's one president that has laid the foundation stone for the takeover of this country, no matter how we want to view his performance, he has done well by those measures. So I'd like to congratulate him, but I also need to look at a bit of the analysis of some of the things that he has shared with us, Madam Speaker, from my own back of envelope analysis of reading these reports, as well as just looking at some of the key measures he has outlined for us. I'd like to, first of all, acknowledge that he has laid a proper contextual framework in the sense that he has talked to us about the need for our nationhood, the need for focusing on the economy, and the need for focusing on the social structure of our country, Madam Speaker, because without the social structure that gives the dignity and the belonging to the country, then even the economic of things cannot really come into play. Without the nationhood, again, other things seem a bit higher hierarchy than the basics. With that in mind, I would like to then say that I congratulate the President for these things, but there are areas in which we could have done better, and areas in which I feel perhaps a little bit more delineation and breakdown would done as well, because there are very many disparities in this country, depending on geography, depending on demographic, depending on gender, and these kinds of things that we needed to see of the good things that has happened in this country in the last 8 years. How much of that benefit has gone to the women of this country? Of the good things that has happened in this country, how much of that has gone to the youth of this country? Of the good things that have happened and all these great stimulus packages, how much has gone to northern Kenya? How much has gone to the formerly marginalized? I know these days we are being asked not to talk about marginalization, but people do not come from marginalization of 100 years in 8 or 5 years. There's still a lot of disparities regionally, demographically, or gender-wise, or even PWDs. So again, maybe in future, as this House, what we perhaps need to demand or to ask our presidents is to go beyond global figures of the country and to break it down demographically, by gender, by disability, and by regions, so that then we know that we're not leaving anybody behind. But that having been said, I would like to say that the areas of focus that the President has highlighted, he started off by telling us that the State of the Nation address of His Excellency focused on economic development. What a great sector, because without the economic development, we would not know what the economic well-being of our country is. He focused on the social structure, as I mentioned, which then was supposed to restore the dignity of our people and give us a sense of belonging, as well as a nationhood. But of note, and one that I would like to congratulate His Excellency and his administration on, is the cross-cutting issue of the COVID-19 and other emerging disruptions. Madam Speaker, our country is, shall I say, not least developed, but again, is a developing country. But for a developing country, the way our country has handled COVID-19 is commendable. And as the President said, there was leadership that was shown. There was, of course, things to be balanced between the economic of things and the health side of things, but the way the choices were made and the way the leadership was provided and the actions thereof point to great leadership on behalf of His Excellency and his administration, and on behalf of the Ministry of Health and Senator Kagwe, who really went out of their way to make sure that there's a balance between the economy as well as the support and the health, on the health side of things. So I really congratulate our country, and I think this is something we should be proud of, because from the support that was provided to SMEs, to the health sector, to the counties, I think, and the same way, you know, the amounts provided to get health workers, I think this was very good. I know we were all not happy with lockdowns, but again, that was much needed lockdown that helped to balance for us so that our health sector and our health systems do not collapse under the sheer volume and gravity of COVID-19. Madam Speaker, one thing I have a concern about, though, is the stimulus packages that were given. While very commendable, the stimulus packages focused on core sectors. But then, what was the definition of core sectors, Madam Speaker? Yes, of course, agriculture is core sector, but within that agriculture, was livestock forgotten? And this is some of the things that we legislators from Northern Kenya are concerned about and hope to see going forward, or even administratively, the agriculture sector, including livestock, and a breakdown of what was given as support to pastoralists and what was given as support and to the livestock sector, especially the livestock sector, that the nomadic lifestyle and the pastoralist sector. Madam Speaker, we were in the second stimulus package. Again, I commend the President for focusing on agriculture, on education, on SMEs, on universal health care, on tourism. Again, there is SME support injection of 5 billion, seed capital to SME credit guarantee schemes. We would like our country and our President to be looking at livestock schemes as well. Did we get any support for livestock sector? Was there any livestock scheme that was given? I don't think that was the case, but if there was, we want to make sure that livestock rearing is mainstreamed. I know we're told about the bread basket, we are the bread basket too when it comes to the protein that the livestock provides. Man cannot live on bread alone. So please, we would like to say, as legislators from Northern Kenya, we want to see a livestock scheme, we want to see livestock guarantees as well as going forward, and even right now. The injection of 6.5 billion shillings into education sector, very much welcome, because an uneducated country is a doomed country. So we really hope that we continue to inject much needed resources, especially as we transition from the 844 system into the CBC system. Madam Speaker, 10,000 teachers were employed. The place with the worst ratio of student to teachers is Northern Kenya. You know the insecurity there, and therefore a lot of teachers had actually taken off. We would like to see if we could see the breakdown of the 10,000 teachers, what percentage of teachers were for Northern Kenya, which was the most needed, which had the biggest gap. Those are the kinds of questions that were coming to my mind as I listened to the very fantastic speech of our president, and with much congratulations and thankfulness, but we would like to see, of these things, the global statistics for the country do not give the picture of what has been done for different demographics, as I said earlier, for different locations and different regions. Madam Speaker, we welcome the UHC support for locally made beds. We welcome the 3 billion farm inputs. Also, we would like some livestock inputs as well, so that then we can say nobody was left behind and no food source, including the protein source that the meat suppliers of this country are providing, is not left behind. Madam Speaker, I know the small-scale farmers and flour farmers were also given in the second package 2.5 billion to assist flour farmers to access international markets. Again, we need markets for our livestock. We need support in that area as well. Madam Speaker, I do not wish to go over too many of these things, but definitely we do have a lot of good, which we must celebrate. In terms of our international obligations, Madam Speaker, we've just come back, those that have had the opportunity to go to COP26, discussions on climate change. Our country is at the forefront, and I congratulate the increase, even though nominal, of the forest cover, but we need to do more as this country. We also need to ratify a lot of these international obligations, because there are certain ones that we are lagging behind, which we are going to bring to the attention of this House. Madam Speaker, in terms of the blue economy, the Lamu port, the dual carriage infrastructure, these are fantastic imperatives, these are fantastic groundwork for us to take off, and therefore we support the president and hope that these things are going to be great legacy for him, so that with the next president that comes, which is going to be for us, the Honorable Gideon Moi, we will make sure that we build on this, because this country loves peace, this country loves prosperity, this country will ensure that we build on the gains that we've made so far. I would like to also, as a proponent of Kazi Mtahani, congratulate the president for listening to us, for the input that we gave him, even from the Kazi Mtahani kids in Isiolo, who have worked so hard to make the county very hygienic and very beautiful in the last few years, and making sure that we have access to the bridges and to the water sources as well. Madam Speaker, I would like to congratulate the president, especially on the national ethos and the national values and the report thereof. I don't wish to speak so much to that because I haven't read the report, but I know that he espouses those values. I know that he has walked those values, and I know that having come from where he has come, he has also made sure that the national values that we espouse, the democratic rights of this country, and this is one president, even just looking at, as I congratulate Senator Mwaura for coming back here. Our president respects the rule of law. Our president respects the separation of powers between the different arms of government. And this is why when the court speaks, our president obliges. I thank you, and I support and I congratulate our president and the people of Kenya for being so resilient in the face of a lot of uncertainties and a lot of hardships brought on by COVID-19. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki.
Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipa fursa hii kuzungumzia hotuba ya rais kwa bunge ambayo ilitolewa jana tarehe 30 mwezi wa 11 mwaka 2021. Mheshimiwa Speaker, kwanza ningempongeza Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kwa hotuba hiyo ambayo Wakenya wengi walikuwa wanaisubiri kwa hamu, kwa sababu ni mwongozo na vile vile pia ni ruwaza ya yale mambo ambayo ameweza kufanya na yale ambayo anatarajia kufanya na serikali yake kwa muda unaofuata. Mheshimiwa Spika, nilipendekezwa zaidi na hatua zilizopigwa kiuchumi, kwa sababu uchumi wetu uliweza kupata pigo badala ya kuvamiwa na janga la corona. Lakini tumeona kwamba wameweza kutetea uchumi huu na vile vile tukaweza kupata maendeleo fulani katika uchumi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nampongeza Rais na baraza lake la mawaziri na wale wote ambao wamehusika katika kuimarisha uchumi huu dhidi ya hatari ambazo na majanga ambayo tumekuwa nayo nchini Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia ningependa kumpendekeza Rais kwa kuweza kuidhibiti hali ya finance, yani kuhusiana na pesa, hali ya kiuchumi, hususan mambo ya fedha, kwa sababu tumeona kwamba japokuwa dola imeweza kuimarika na shilingi yetu imeweza kupata misukosuko, lakini tumeona kwamba katika nchi tuna utulivu katika masuala ya kifedha. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia ningependa kumpongeza Rais kwa juhudi zake katika mabadiliko tabia nchi, yani kwa wale ambao hawajui Kiswahili, climate change, ambayo tabia nchi ameweza kusafiri mpaka Scotland ambako alitoa hotuba na delegation ama ujumbe wa Kenya katika mkutano huo. Mheshimiwa Spika, ulikuwa na kazi kubwa sana na uliweza kuonesha mambo mengi ambayo Kenya inafanya ili kudhibiti mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia nilipendezwa na hali ya afya, mwongozo wake katika masuala ya afya, ambapo ameweza kujenga hospitali kadhaa hapa katika kaunti ya Nairobi, ambako sehemu nyingi zilikuwa hazina huduma za afya, na akaweza kusifikisha. Vile vile kina mama ambao wanapata ujauzito na kujifungua wameweza pia kutajwa, na akaonesha kwamba kuna kazi kubwa ambayo ameweza kuifanya, lakini bado mengi yanastahili kufanywa. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia hali ya afya ama hali ya taasisi za kiafya katika kaunti zetu nyingi zimeweza kuimarisha pia kwa sababu ya kujitayarisha na janga hili la corona. Mheshimiwa Spika, janga la corona bado halijakwenda, lakini kwa hivyo inafaa tuwe macho ili kuhakikisha kwamba janga hili haliwezi kurudia tena. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona pia katika hotuba yake kwamba Rais ameangazia mambo mengi ambayo yanaonyesha kwamba baada ya kuweza kushirikiana na Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, waziri mkuu, imeonekana kwamba hali ya nchi imeweza kuwa tulivu, na vile vile pia usalama umeweza kuimarika, na vile vile pia watu wameweza kuendesha mambo yao na kushukisha joto la kisiasa ambao bado kwa sasa tunaona limeanza kupanda tena. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo pia nampongeza baba wa chama chetu, kiongozi wa chama chetu Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga kwa kuona mbele kwake ili kuweza kuja pamoja na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ili kuweza kushukisha chini joto la kisiasa na kuimarisha uchumi wa nchi hii wakati ulikuwa unayumbayumba kutokana na kura zilizopigwa mwaka 2017. Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa baadhi ya mambo ni mazuri, lakini bado kuna mambo mengi ambayo serikali inastahili kufanya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza kabisa ni haki za binadamu. Tumeona kwamba kwa muda wa miaka 4 au 5 hii tumeona kuwa kumekuwa na kudhulumiwa zaidi ya watu katika haki za kibinadamu kupitia kwa ile tunaita extrajudicial killing, ana watu kuuliwa kiolela, na vile vile wengine kupotezwa bila kujulikana wamepelekwa wapi. Mheshimiwa Spika, Kenya ni nchi ambayo inalindwa na katiba, ni nchi ambayo ina sheria, na nchi ambayo ina taasisi ya mahakama ambayo tuweza kusema licha ya matatizo ya hapa na pale imekuwa inafanya kazi yake vizuri zaidi kuliko mahakama zingine katika nchi zingine hapa Afrika na kwengineko. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona kwamba kuongezeka ama ongezeko la watu wanaouliwa kiholela katika mikono ya polisi imekuwa ni ya juu sana. Mwaka huu Mheshimiwa Spika, shirika la Haki Afrika na pia IMLU, yani Independent Medical Legal Unit, wameweza kurekodi visa zaidi ya 70 ambavyo watu wameweza kupoteza maisha yao kiholela na ama kupotezwa bila ya kufuatwa kwa sheria. Ripoti ile Mheshimiwa Spika tulijadili hapa wiki mbili zilizokwisha, kwa hivyo haina haja ya kuongezea. Ni kusema tu kwamba rais angeweza kutoa mwongozo wake ama msimamo wake kwamba ataendelea kuongoza nchi hii kupitia katiba na sheria ambayo iko katika nchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, Wakenya wengi katika maeneo ya pwani na maeneo ya ukanda wa kaskazini ya Kenya, yani Northern Kenya, wanaishi katika hofu kwa sababu hawajui ni wakati gani wataweza kuja kukamatwa na familia zao hazitapata fursa ya kuona tena. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona pia kwamba katika swala la ufisadi, karibuni maseneta, katika swala la ufisadi hotuba ya rais ilikuwa kimya kabisa Mheshimiwa Spika, na tuliona kwamba hapo awali mwaka jana wakati janga la corona lilipoingia na zabuni za corona zilipoanza kutoka, fedha nyingi Mheshimiwa Spika zilitolewa na zikapotezwa bila ya kuletwa zile bidhaa ambazo zilikusudiwa kufanywa. Mheshimiwa Spika, mwongozo ama maazimio ama vile vile directives ambazo rais alitoa kuhusiana na uchunguzi wa masuala ya corona, mpaka sasa hatujaweza kupata ripoti yote Mheshimiwa Spika. Tuliona Mheshimiwa Spika awali katika uongozi wake katika muhula wa mwaka 2013 mpaka 2017 mawaziri wakati fulani waliambiwa wakae kando ili uchunguzi uweze kufanywa kuhusiana na masuala ya corruption. Kwa sasa Mheshimiwa Spika, hakuna yeyote ambaye ameweza kusimamishwa kazi ama kuzuiliwa ama kushtakiwa kwa masuala ya ufisadi. Mheshimiwa Spika, ufisadi ni donda sugu ambalo lazima serikali hii na serikali zitakazokuja liweze kudhibiti, ama sivyo Wakenya wengi watalia bila ya kupata huduma zile ambazo wanastahili kupata kwa sababu ya masuala ya ufisadi. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo lingine ambalo limenisikitisha ni kuwa uchumi samawati, yani blue economy, ambayo pia ni jambo muhimu katika nchi yetu ya Kenya kwa sababu tuna ufuo wa bahari na ziwa Victoria na ziwa Turkana ambako shughuli za uchumi samawati zinaweza kufanyika, haukuzungumziwa kikamilifu Mheshimiwa Spika. Iligusiwa tu, lakini mpaka sasa hakuja kuwa na maendeleo ama maendeleo yanayofanyika Mheshimiwa Spika yako chini sana ili kuona kwamba haijatoa natija yoyote kwa Wakenya kuhusiana na swala hili Mheshimiwa Spika. Hata kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Spika, kudhibiti vyombo vya kuhifadhi samaki wanapovuliwa kwa wingi, barabara katika sehemu ambazo wavuvi wanavua, na vile vile pia zile wanazoita landing site, yani bandari ambazo zinatakana kupokea samaki wale Mheshimiwa Spika, hazijapawa kipaumbele katika maendeleo ya uchumi samawati. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi pia kama watu wa pwani tuna tumbo joto kuhusiana na ripoti zilizotolewa kwa Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba sehemu ya bandari ya Kenya itaweza kubinafsishwa kupitia kwa shirika la Kenya National Shipping Line ambalo limeingia mazungumzo na shirika la MSC, yani Mediterranean Shipping Company. Mheshimiwa Spika, mwaka jana kulitolewa executive order ambapo mashirika ya Kenya Ports Authority, Kenya Railways, Kenya Pipeline yaliletwa pamoja pamoja na ICDC, yani Industrial Commercial and Development Corporation, ambalo pia ni taasisi ya serikali, ili kuweza kuwa na management moja kupitia kwa Wizara ya Fedha. Mheshimiwa Spika, rais hakuweza kulizungumzia swala hili ili kutoa mwongozo, je, swala hili limeweza kuleta natija ama la? Ni mambo gani ambayo yameweza kuzuia kupatikana kwa maendeleo katika masuala ya usafirishaji wa mizigo na vile vile kudhibiti mambo ya reli kama ilivyokuwa imekusudiwa na mpaka sasa haijakamilishwa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, swala hili la kubinafsishwa kwa bandari limetia sana tumbo joto wakazi wa pwani, kwa sababu bandari ndio shirika ambalo ama ndio mtaji ambao Mwenyezi Mungu amewajalia watu wa pwani, na kwa hivyo hatutakuwa tayari kwa wakati wote Mheshimiwa Spika kujaribu kuacha mtaji huu uweze kuharibika. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia masuala ya usafirishaji wa mizigo kutoka bandari ya Mombasa pia ilikuwa inastahili kuzungumziwa, kwa sababu serikali inalazimisha mizigo yote bebwe na shirika la SGR, shirika la reli la Kenya, wakati kuna uhuru wa biashara katika Kenya, ambapo wale wanaofanya biashara za malori na nyingine za kibinafsi wanastahili kupewa nafasi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kumalizia ni pia kwamba tumeona kuwa masuala ya usafirishaji wa mizigo ni njia moja ambayo itasaidia Wakenya kuweza kujikomboa, hususan watu wa Mombasa na watu wengine, ili kuweza kupata biashara katika kaunti zetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia mkondo wa barabara kutoka Mombasa mpaka, iwapo hatutaweza kuwa na usafirishaji wa mizigo kwa njia nyingine mbali na njia ya reli. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikimalizia ni kusema kwamba bado tuna changamoto nyingi ambazo nchi inatakana kuzikabili na kuziepuka. Mheshimiwa, changamoto hizi tunaweza kuzikabili tu wakati nchi yetu itakuwa na amani na tutakuwa tunavuta kamba katika sehemu moja, hususan huu wakati ambao tunakwenda katika masuala ya kura. Inafaa tuangalie kwamba japokuwa tunapigania viti, lakini lengo letu ni kwamba lazima Kenya iweze kubaki nchi moja. Asante Bi Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Senator Boy Issa Juma.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kunipatia fursa hii na mimi niweze kuunga mkono na hotuba ya rais aliyesoma jana bungeni tarehe 30. Madam Speaker, kusema la kweli hotuba yenyewe ilikuwa ni hotuba nzuri sana, ambayo mimi kama Senator wa Kwale kwa niaba pia ya watu wa Kwale natoa shukrani yetu kubwa sana, kwa sababu ukiangalia kwa upande wa barabara, hasa katika kaunti yetu ya Kwale, kuna barabara zingine ambazo toka wakati wa ukoloni zilikuwa hazijawahi kupata lami. Na nitataja hapa, kuna barabara ambayo kuanzia Kanana mpaka Shimoni, poti ya Shimoni. Barabara hiyo kwa miaka yote toka wakati wa Uhuru ilikuwa haijatiwa lami. Lakini kwa kuingia kwa mtukufu rais na serikali yake, hii barabara imeweza kutiwa lami. Hivi sasa hii ukitoka Kanana mpaka Shimoni ni lami moja kwa moja. Barabara nyingine ambayo katika kaunti wa Kwale, ambayo sisi kama wakazi wa Kwale tunashukuru serikali na mtukufu rais, ni ile barabara kutoka Majoreni mpaka Vanga. Barabara hii imekaa kwa miaka mingi sana bila kuwa na lami. Kwa hivyo tunatoa shukrani kubwa sana kwa mtukufu rais na serikali yake kuweza kututilia hiyo lami. Barabara nyingine ni kwamba kutoka Lunga mpaka Vanga, barabara ambayo imekaa toka wakati wa Uhuru, toka mimi sijazaliwa, lakini toka serikali hii ya mtukufu rais alipokuwa ameingia ndani, barabara hizo zimetiwa lami. Barabara ya Samburu mpaka Kinango, sasa hii ukitoka Nairobi kama wataka kwenda Kwale au Diani, huna haja ya kwenda moja kwa moja mpaka Likoni, unaingia tu unakata kona Samburu, unakwenda moja kwa moja mpaka Kwale, mpaka Kinango, na kutoka Kinango sasa hii inatiwa lami mpaka Kwale town. Kwa hivyo mheshimiwa mtukufu rais, hii hotuba yake aliyozungumzia ni hotuba ambayo mimi mwenyewe kama senator wa Kwale, ambaye pia ni mbunge katika bunge hili la Senate, ni kwamba hotuba yake ilikuwa ni nzuri sana. Ukiangalia upande wa umeme, kuna sehemu zingine ambazo kama katika kaunti yetu ya Kwale kulikuwa hawajawahi kuona umeme toka wakati wa Uhuru. Leo ukiasha kidude na mne tap, umeme unaonekana. Sehemu za huko sehemu za Muhaka, sehemu za Kilole huko karibu na Muhaka, sehemu zingine za Msambweni huko ndani, sasa hii ukiasha taa zinaonekanika. Mambo ya elimu, alhamdulillah, kusema la kweli elimu zimeboreshwa, maskuli zimetengenezwa, na hata hivi juzi mtukufu rais amesema kwamba secondary school nyingine zianze kujengwa tena. Kwa hivyo hotuba yake imegusia kila kitu katika nchi hii. Ni hotuba ambayo ni safi kabisa, ambayo kila Mkenya anaunga mkono hotuba yake hii. Kuna wengine ambao mwanadamu kawaida, hakuna mtu ambaye anaridhika na jambo siku hizi. Utasikia mwingine anasema hivi, lakini kongole kwa mtukufu rais, na Mwenyezi Mungu amjalie aweze hizo ambazo amezitarajia kutengezwa ziweze kuendelea, ziweze kumaliza hizo shughuli, Mungu akipenda, na kila kitu itakuwa sawa sawa. Kwa hivyo Madam Speaker, mimi sitaki kusema mengi yamezungumzwa hapa. Yangu ni tu ni kutoa shukurani kwa ile hotuba yake aliyosoma bungeni jana na mengi ambayo yamezungumzwa hapo. Ukiangalia mambo ya afya sahihi, kina mama ambao wengine hana uwezo wa kulinda mama ile. Sasa hii mama anakwenda kujifungua hospitali. Ukifika kama hospitali za kwetu, sehemu za Msambweni, sehemu za Lunga dispensary, sehemu za Silaloni, Kinango huko, wakina mama wanaenda kujifungua wengi sana bila shida hiyo. Kwa hivyo tunampa mtukufu rais kongole kubwa sana. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi sina mengi. Hotuba yake ilikuwa safi kabisa na tunamshukuru, na hakuna kuna wengine wanazungumza tu kwamba wao sijui ilikuwa kwa vile ilivyokuwa, lakini mimi naona iko sawa sawa kabisa. Maji, barabara, elimu, afya. Kwa hivyo asante sana Madam Speaker kunipa fursa hiyo. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Senator Wambua Enoch.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to also bring my comments on the President's speech yesterday. But, Madam Speaker, just for purposes of clarity, so that I can organize my thoughts properly, how many minutes do I have? 10 minutes, thank you. 15, thank you, Madam Speaker. So, I will try to organize my thoughts, Madam Speaker, if you can protect me from the Senator of Mombasa. He's trying to disrupt me. So, Madam Speaker, I'll address myself to 4 issues. I'll address myself to the issue of COVID-19, the issue of road infrastructure, the handshake, and military involvement in civilian activities. Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to really congratulate and thank the President for recognizing and praising companies that have been resilient amid great challenges brought about by Corona, and companies that have innovated positively around the pandemic to not only stay afloat, but to make a big contribution in the fight against the pandemic. Madam Speaker, for the President to have taken time to recognize those companies, and he mentioned some by name in his speech, I want to thank him, because that is positive reinforcement to institutions and companies in this country that are doing a great job. He also took time to recognize the contribution made by certain counties in the fight against coronavirus. He spoke very well about that some counties have invested in the production of PPEs. Some counties have invested a lot of money and resources in equipping the hospitals with ICU facilities. A lot of these counties have also, Madam Speaker, invested in the production of oxygen. And that's a positive move, because these investments would definitely outlive the pandemic. It's a good thing that he did. I heard Senator Petronila Were trying to say that the President should have mentioned Kitui, but I don't doubt the wisdom of the President. He definitely has people around him who know where to draw the line between shoddy work and work that should merit involvement and inclusion in the President's speech. And so those things that Petronila Were is talking about, perhaps they fall in that other category. I thank the President for really positively reinforcing these counties. Madam Speaker, I would have expected that the President would not stop there. I would have expected that the President would go ahead. Remember, in the first term of his presidency, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is on record to have used a State of the Nation address in Parliament to name and shame cabinet secretaries and people in big offices of allegations of corruption. Madam Speaker, I would have expected that the president would have found time and space in his speech to name and shame the COVID billionaires, people who have negatively innovated around the pandemic to enrich themselves at the expense of dying Kenyans. I would have expected that the very least the president would have done would have been to name and shame them. But as Speaker, I would have expected that the president would also have found time and space in his speech to talk about the misappropriation of funds devolved to counties for the purposes of fighting coronavirus, and where governors have been caught red-handed with their hands in the cookie jar, Madam Speaker, where they have misallocated resources to other functions, and those functions leading to misappropriation of public funds. That did not happen, but I felt a bit let down on that issue. And this, Madam Speaker, I speak for and on behalf of the people of Kitui County. Madam Speaker, I would have expected, whilst still on the COVID issue, that the President perhaps would have clarified our state of preparedness in addressing the new variant. You know, Madam Speaker, I just arrived yesterday from an official trip to Israel. And immediately there was a single case of the new variant reported in Israel. The action that the government took was swift, very swift action. Swift to the extent that it actually took the Prime Minister himself to address that issue and how people need to behave going forward. I heard the President saying, but this was actually off the cup, I heard him saying yesterday that, and he said in Kiswahili, nyinyi msitufungie tumefanya kazi sana. I took that to mean that he is talking to the Ministry of Health to make sure that there is no lockdown and that people should be allowed to move around freely. That's okay. But, Madam Speaker, strategic plans must have been put in place by now to ensure, because we are very near, we are neighboring South Africa, not very far away from us, the southern part of Africa. And we have a lot of contacts through traveling, through business, with those South African countries. And so, to ensure that we are not listed among citizens who cannot travel to Europe and other places for business, Madam Speaker, I would have expected the President would have addressed himself to that issue. Madam Speaker, I want to commend the President for speaking about the moratorium on the CRB listing for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Madam Speaker, this is a good thing to give a valve for these SMEs that are resilient to be able to survive these hard economic times. But Madam Speaker, it will be noted that CRB is not the only problem that SMEs are facing and Kenyans are facing. Madam Speaker, there is the issue of auctioneers and lenders who are always running after Kenyans who have been made unable to repay their loans. And Madam Speaker, on this one, I want to specifically talk about lending institutions operating in Kitui County. Madam Speaker, without casting aspersions on anyone, but just putting facts bare, the Kenya Women Finance Trust has done a good job at empowering especially women in Kitui. They have made it possible for women to access credit, to build houses, to buy livestock, to start small little businesses. But Madam Speaker, in the light of the pandemic, a lot of these women who mean well are unable to service these commitments as promptly as they used to do before. And now what is happening is that these institutions are now not just going after these women. They are going to their homes and taking away iron sheets from the roofs of their houses. They are taking doors from the houses. They are taking away television stations, taking away livestock. Madam Speaker, as the President protects our people from CRB, it's also important that he would extend that protection to these lending institutions, especially where there are genuine cases of people being unable to honor their commitments on account of this pandemic that has continued to ravage our community. Madam Speaker, the other issue that I want to talk about is the issue of road infrastructure. Madam Speaker, on the issue of road infrastructure, the President mentioned that since independence, successive governments have built collectively 11,200 kilometers of tarmac roads. And that in the last 8 years of President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration, his government has built over 10,500 kilometers. This is impressive, Madam Speaker, and the President and his government must be congratulated for this, because without proper road network in this country, it will be impossible for people to transact business in a profitable way. Madam Speaker, but even as we congratulate the President on the road infrastructure, we must also, as representatives of the people, bring to the fore the need, Madam Speaker, to continually put a human face to development. That, Madam Speaker, it is not just enough to construct 10,000 kilometers of road network. That's not enough. Madam Speaker, it is a good thing to construct the roads. But you must ask yourself, what is the human cost to that road infrastructure? Kenyans have had to bear the brand of the cost of development at times without justifiable cause. Madam Speaker, I want to give the example of the Kibwezi, Ikudha, Kitui, Migwani, Bondoni Road. Madam Speaker, a road which stretches 102 kilometers. The road is under construction. We thank the government for making this a reality after so many years of empty promises. But, Madam Speaker, the persons affected by that project, the people whose land has been taken for purposes of constructing the road. Madam Speaker, Article 40 of the Constitution has not been followed on prompt and full compensation for road, for private property taken for public use. Madam Speaker, I want to continue to appeal to the government through the President that these PUPs should be compensated. The land that has been taken from them to construct that road, they should be paid back that money. And it's not just in Kitui, it is also in other areas. It is in the Eldoret bypass. There is that challenge. We have the same challenge on the Western bypass. Madam Speaker, I appeal that as we do the construction of roads, which is a very commendable thing, let's make sure that we find and make available resources for compensation of persons affected by projects. Madam Speaker, the inconveniences on Mombasa Road, I don't need to overemphasize that. It has taken serious sacrifices for Kenyans using Mombasa Road. Yes, the road is good. It will ease movement once it's completed. But, Madam Speaker, where is the human face to this infrastructure? As Kenyans make sacrifices for development to happen, it is important that the government is seen to be considerate about the suffering of people occasioned by projects. Madam Speaker, the second last comment will be on the issue of the handshake. I heard the President talk very well about the handshake. I personally have no problem with the handshake. I congratulate the President and the former Prime Minister. Madam Speaker, can I ask for an additional 3 minutes, if possible, please?
Two more minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I congratulate the President and the former Prime Minister on the issue of the handshake. This is an initiative that was started by two people, but as time went by, other leaders got involved. And I want to thank the President for making it very, very clear that the purpose of the handshake was to ensure stability in the country. That, Madam Speaker, anything else beyond stability then is an addition of other people. It's not what the President committed to. He committed to stability, and we support him fully to ensure that there is ample time for him to govern and for this country to be allowed to prosper. Madam Speaker, lastly, on the issue of military involvement in civilian activities, Madam Speaker, the President said that he's going to tap on the input of the military because of efficiency and the discipline of the armed forces, which is a good thing. Military people are known to be very efficient. They are known to be very disciplined. But, Madam Speaker, there is a reason that the world over, military people are kept in the barracks. There is a reason why military people are kept in the barracks. Because, Madam Speaker, you don't want to give military people ideas about civilian practices. In the barracks, they are shielded from civilian activities that tempt leaders and people working in those big offices to be involved in corrupt practices. Madam Speaker, to the extent that is possible, let us keep the military people in the barracks and train our people from young age to be patriotic, to love their country, to be efficient, to ensure fairness, and ensure that, Madam Speaker, they undertake the responsibilities given to them with dignity and objectively. Madam Speaker, I thank you for the additional 2 minutes, and that's my submission. I thank you.
Senator Ongeri Samson Kegengo.
Madam Speaker, let me also add my voice to the excellent exposition of the President's State of the Art National Address to the two joint sessions of both Senate and Parliament. The essence of this presidential address is to be able to put on record the kind of activities that they've been able to carry out effectively for this nation, so that the representative of the people can take note of it and be able to critique some of the areas where they feel there have been shortfalls. And if I captured the mood of the presidential address yesterday, it was basically what they were able to inherit in 2013, what they were able to put out in their manifesto, and also in accordance with Vision 2030, which is a main leading document for this nation for development and social activities. And therefore, when you look across the board, it's quite evident that we have made some strides in one way or the other. You cannot ignore the development agenda that has taken place in this country. One of the things that Kenyans dismiss very easily is that, well, nothing has been done. Yes, for political purposes, we can do so. But that does not mean there haven't been pitfalls here and there that we need to take cognizance of, and we need to be able to articulate and understand how to go around it and how to achieve that stated objective. I'll come straight to the issue of infrastructure. It's indeed the infrastructure that has taken place in terms of the expansion of the road networks in this country, in terms of the last mile electricity connection in this country, and also in the expansion of our inland ports, and also the Lamu port and other SGR activities that have been carried out in this nation. This may have been one of the reasons why the GDP has gone up. But unfortunately, it doesn't translate into money into the pockets of poor people, people below the poverty line. Whereas we may applaud the government for having achieved those level of attainments. We now have a specific SGR transportation system that is able to get the cargo from Mombasa port to the inland port in Naivasha and in Nairobi and elsewhere, and hence reducing the carnage on the road because of the heavy trucks plowing there. I still see a number of heavy loads coming from Mombasa through to Mombasa Road to Nairobi. It's only the other week when we were in Makueni and I happened to go through the main Nairobi-Mombasa Road to Hunter's Lodge to be able to branch off to Makueni. It was quite evident that traffic is still extremely high, and therefore we have not been able to decongest our roads. And a lot of time is wasted in those roads by vehicles. If you get one vehicle spoiled or as a mechanical problem, the rest of the other vehicles pile up and causes a lot of congestion, and that's not good enough. Therefore, I was hoping that one of the highlights in the road infrastructure network would have been a highway, a dual carriageway from Mombasa to Nairobi. This will have a double effect. The economic zones that require to be put along the road network from Mombasa to Nairobi, for instance, between Mombasa and Voi, economic zones, Voi and the other places, Sultan Ahmud, and other economic zones along those lines. Then, of course, the Konza City, which we now see between Makueni and Machakos counties. And finally, the Earth River, which has expanded extremely well. So this dual carriageway is something that must be put in the program because it has a net effect of creating economic activities and therefore generating employment opportunities for our young people. Unemployment is one of the biggest undoing things for this country. And until such a time, we're able to get useful, gainful employment for our people, for our young people, for our young population, who constitute 75% of Kenya's population, we're going to run into difficulties in managing the affairs of this nation. And therefore, it's my proposal that whatever other activities that are left, and if they are not there within this period of time, certainly when the ODM government takes over in 2022, we should be able to put these things in place so that we can carry forward a mandate that we think President Kenyatta initiated, Uhuru Kenyatta, and therefore we'll be able to carry that mandate forward and be able to create extra infrastructure. And there's no better suited person than His Excellency, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, because he has done it before during the Grand Coalition, when they increased the infrastructure development and in fact created a fabric for this nation, and therefore they are able, and more than able, and when he takes over with his other colleagues, that they will be able to expand the infrastructure terrain in this nation, and therefore bring prosperity to this nation. This was one of the things that was captured in the BBI, and unfortunately the BBI went the way it went. And I was happy yesterday when the president, in fact, re-emphasized it may have stopped for a while, but it will come back. And there's no better suited person who will bring it back than his handshake partner, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya. So we feel that this was a timely statement and a recognition that our party leader is also a man of substance, because he has done it before and he will be able to do it as part of his legacy, continuation of his legacy to after 2022. The other area I would have liked to see, yes, I've seen a lot of road network in Central Province, in some other areas, in some other counties, but I would like to see similar networks in my county in Kisii. I've not seen. Like, for instance, there was this road that we had put in the map when I was the minister at that time in the Kibaki administration, we had put that road network from Sosera to Ramasha, and then joining the Masimba Nyangusu highway, and then a branch off from Ekona to Nyantrago. And similarly, we had put on a continuation of Kemera Amabuko Road to continue from Keroka to Ibacho, Kiamokama on to Nyacheki, and then from Ibacho to Ibirongo network. Those roads have not been done. They have just been appearing and they have not been done. And the people of my county are crying foul because they have not been treated like other counties have been treated, where you see superb road network. And therefore, even when we met the president and he visited Kenya, and we met him at the State House, he gave us an assurance that some of those road networks will be captured in the development. And of course, not to mention, not to leave alone, to leave out, there was the Nyamache, Kiobegi to Nyangusu Road that was to be done, tarmacked, it's not been done, and also the Nyabisabo, Matunwa to Amariba Road, that has not been done, and the one from Kiumbu through to Nyaguta to again up to the factory, the tea factory, up to Kyogoro has not been done. Those bypasses ought to be done. And in Bomachoge Chache, apparently some of them are being done, but we'd like to see more roads there, and more roads in South Mogrango, particularly in the upper north, in the Etago area, the other region. We need those road networks created, and Bomachoge Borabu. And I think until such road networks are done, we cannot be able to move the primary agricultural products from our farms to the areas where they need to move, so that we are able also to feel like other rest of Kenyans that the infrastructure has served us well. And this is one area that we need to do. The second area of infrastructure that I want to touch on is the question of health. The health infrastructure, and particularly the universal healthcare delivery infrastructure. We all know one of the biggest expense for any Kenyans today is the medical bill. This has caused a lot of miseries, a lot of pain, because the hospital bills are mounting up, out of reach for people. Even we as leaders, we have done so many harambes, and every day we're doing one sort of harambe or the other to be able to meet the medical expense. And I think one of the things that need to be looked into and be seen to be spread out is the universal health care system set out. I'm a member of the health committee, and without anticipating the debate, we've been able to finish the bill, which is, I think, before this House, and it's my plea that this bill can be fast-tracked to come out even tomorrow, if need be, so we can finish with it, so that we can roll out a universal health care system to Kenyans who are in a dire need of getting these services at their doorsteps. And I think it's important that we do so. And the element of our politics, whatever happens, we need this nation. We have to be civil in the manner in which we approach the public, in the manner in which we talk to the public. We've got to be kind to the people. We have got to be considerate to the people. After all, it is their interests that we are promoting for the welfare of this nation. And I get very distressed when I see some people hurling abuses at other leaders. It doesn't help, and it will never help. All of us need this nation in one piece. We don't need a nation which is torn apart. We need this nation to accommodate each and every person of divergent views. And therefore, if you want to propagate your agenda, do it civilly. Don't come and start fighting people or harassing people or creating commotion in churches, creating commotion in funeral places, causing commotion in various places. There's no need whatsoever. Peace is a lasting commodity. And that's the one we must seek and pursue at all times. It doesn't cost you anything to espouse peace. It doesn't cost you anything to preach peace. If anything else, it gives you comfort and solace that you are dealing with human beings and not dealing with people who are not human beings. Therefore, it's my plea for my political colleagues. Nobody refuses you to seek any office in any place, but come in a gentle manner, preach your gospel, leave the stage, let the others come, they will preach their gospel. If the people agree which gospel to pick, like I now know that they are agreeing that they will pick our gospel, because we preach peace and we want to espouse peace, we want to create prosperity of this nation, we want to grow this nation to the next heights, I think that will be the way to go. And I would like to see finally that the current regime, and they have done well, I must say, under the leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta, that they can give and roll out in this last leg of his term, roll out the stimulus. 2 minutes, madam, if I may, please.
Yes, I can. Let's have the 3 minutes because we are about to adjourn.
Thank you. So if we can roll out another additional stimulus package, because Kenyans want to recover from the ashes of economic morass. We want to recover and move forward. Our markets need to be rejuvenated. Our trading systems need to be rejuvenated. The Juakali, which I started as a minister of Juakali, needs to be rejuvenated. Our youth groups, our women groups need to be rejuvenated. And therefore, an extra stimulus package will go in a greater way in creating the stability and be able to help the current government to achieve the growth potential that they are able, they are projected to achieve a double, we are 4%. And I heard the governor of Central Bank projecting that if we go the way we are going now, we are likely to achieve the 6% growth GDP in this country, growth rate, which would be fantastic. And that will be nearer the growth rate that we had in 2007 and 2013 when there was the Grand Coalition. We hit beyond 7%. And any Kenyans would like to see this country prosper. For me, on my part, when I'm given a chance of being a governor of Kisii, and I'm pleading with the Kisii community that when they look at me, that I should be able to roll out such stimulus packages and other packages that will help them to be able to create a viable market for their avocado, for their bananas, for their vegetables, so that we have selling points and the cold storage points, like the one we have put at Kiamukama. There will be many more such other mini elements that will come up in that region, in that county, so that the Kisii people will also continue the legacy of the Governor Ongwae, who has done a wonderful job. And he needs to be respected because he has done his piece and he has done his part, and there's no harm in everything that he has done. So with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to commend the presidential address of yesterday and also request that finally they should be able to bring an additional final stimulus package to be able to move this economy forward so we can achieve the potential of 7% GDP that we have been yearning to achieve. And if possible, in the next government, we should be able to go up to the double digit of 10% under the tutelage of the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, we have concluded 21 at 2:30.